I have a question right in the beginning because I'm going to talk about things. One is seeds, which is a new financial system, currency. And the other one is HIFA, which is a decentralized organization that I've been working for and with for the last 2 years, and which is going to be a toolset builder for other decentralized organizations to create their tool sets to, themselves in this way. Hello? Maybe this one's better. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I want to gauge the interest. So anybody who wants to hear more about cryptos, raise their hands now. And anybody wants to hear more about decentralized organizations, raise their hands now. I think that's a little bit more about decentralized organizations. So I guess it was also the title of the talk. But usually I talk about seeds. So those things are actually interwoven. So I'm going to just give you some background. My background is in software engineering. And at some point, I went on this whole spiritual journey and spent about 3 years only like meditating and doing not much else, going to different gurus, going through different modalities, et cetera, et cetera. And at some point, I had a major shift that I experienced. And immediately after that, I was really eager to get into crypto. I was like, crypto is the thing. I have to do this right now. I have the skill. I'm a software engineer. Let's do cryptos. Because I realized that cryptos are a way to free ourselves from the money slave system. At the time, I didn't know it's a money slave system, but it allows us to organize ourselves without any central authority. And the key point to crypto and to decentralized governance is that it's decentralized, and so there's no single authority that decides and no group of people who decide, but everyone decides and everyone participates, and that's how it becomes incorruptible. So this was the most important key that I found with crypto. That's why I was into it. And then very quickly, like the next day, I found a job in an ICO startup, and I became the CTO, and then I met Reiki. That startup failed. It was a kind of a bad idea, but I met Reiki, and he sold me on seeds, and we found that Reiki is the founder of seeds. So he had this vision for years and years, and he was working on it, and he explained it to me, and I was just blown away, and I really wanted to be part of it. So I got into it, and I got to work on it. And the main idea behind seeds is that the current financial systems, or the current financial system, is set up to destroy the planet. So whatever you think what's happening right now in this time, if you think it's a conspiracy theory, if you think it's a money grab, if you think it's reptilians, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter, because the system was always going to come to this breaking point because of the way it's set up and because of the corruption that's inherent in it. Inherent in these, these dark places where the money gets created and distributed. And it's also the cause for all the wars. The wars are necessary to keep the money system up. So his idea was, well, let's just create a new currency that's owned by everyone, so it's a cryptocurrency, and that's also governed by everyone. So here we come into decentralized governance. And then we just use that to organize humanity. So the way I see it is that DAOs, like a decentralized organization, decentralized autonomous organizations, right? I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with that term. It means it's an organization that doesn't have a boss, basically. Everyone has a share. There's some sort of voting system or some sort of way that people can express their desires. And then there's an automated software that executes on decisions, for example, spending money. So in order to spend money, you have to have certain votes, and if enough people basically agree, depending on your thresholds, then this money is automatically spent. The contracts are kind of in charge, and there's no single individual who could, become corrupted. Both a financial system and a decentralized organization are ways to organize humans, actually. Like what a currency is a way to organize humans on a large scale. And what a decentralized organization is a way to organize humans on a smaller scale. And both ways are ways to organize humans in a decentralized way without a leader or without an authority figure. So in that sense, they are both very similar to each other. They're just different scales. Like a financial system would be a global scale, and a DAO would be a scale of maybe 50 people. So one is maybe billions of people, and the other one is maybe thousands, maybe 50, maybe 20 people. So, so seeds, the seed system, I'm going to talk about this just briefly, is a financial system that has inherent rules that allow us to create a better planet. So it has rules to regenerate the planet, for example, and it does that by rewarding people that act in regenerative ways and rewarding organizations that act in regenerative ways by distributing money that is basically an inflation on top of the entire system. So when a system is running, it will be distributing what we call a harvest. And the harvest will go to every citizen of seeds, but not in the same way. It will be distributed in different ways, depending on how these citizens basically are acting in the system, how well they are protecting the system, and how well they have done for others, basically. That becomes like a contribution score to seeds, and then the higher you score, the more you get back. It's basically like sort of like cashbacks. And with this comes also governance. So seeds has these rules on how extra money is being distributed, and all these rules are subject to change by the citizens. So all citizens of seeds and all holders have a voice depending on their contribution score and can put up proposals to change the system. So basically we are creating it right now, but we've always intended to give it away. Like as soon as it's ready, it's just given away, and it's owned by all the citizens. So we don't own it anymore, basically. Like we just created it, but we put it out there, and then the decentralized governance can take over. So the Seeds has two levels of governance. One is global, where citizens can put up proposals. It costs a little bit of money to put up a proposal. And then you could basically change any rules, or you could get funding for a project. And then there's a local lever where regions have their own pools of money, and that they can decide on how it's distributed. So for example, if you're in a region and you want to build a community garden, you can put up a proposal, and if enough people in your region agree, then it will be funded by the seed system. So this way, if you think about it, we can create public infrastructure. We can create pretty much anything that requires like large-scale cooperation of people. That's why we say that the financial system is a tool for coordinating humanity. Because at that point, we don't need a government to build roads. We can build our own roads. We just decide on it in this decentralized way and use our own currency for this. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers Seeds. Seeds is scheduled to go live maybe next year, and it will be a relatively stable currency. We're currently looking into ways on making it really stable so that it becomes a way to transact with each other. So it won't be a speculative item where you like with other cryptos, you buy it and you hope it goes up. But with Seeds, it's meant to be a currency that's usable in day-to-day life. So if you compare, for example, to Bitcoin, you could use Bitcoin to trade or to buy a pizza, but then the merchant and the person buying the pizza have a big risk because the prices are fluctuating so much. So currently it's always going up, so nobody really wants to spend it. So it's not really a usable day-to-day currency. So what we are trying to create is, with Seeds, is a usable day-to-day currency that people can just transact with each other. And so what gives a currency, I want to maybe add this as well, like what gives a currency its value? I was thinking about that. Utility.
What's backed by?
What's backed by?
Trust.
Trust. Yes, we do. I agree with the last one here. in my view, I mean, a currency can be backed by assets, for example, but it's only worth as much as people agree that these assets are worth. And currency is really worth as much as people believe it's worth. If everybody tomorrow stopped believing that the dollar is worth anything, then it wouldn't be worth anything. It would be just some numbers in a computer somewhere or some pieces of paper. But if you don't believe it's worth something and nobody else believes it's worth something, it would be worth nothing. So really, a currency is backed by the belief of the community or the willingness to accept it as a currency or the willingness to trade their labor for it. So I think it's basically belief powered. It's basically human powered. So humans give currency the power. The currency itself has no power. It's all the humans that give it the power, so the beliefs. Yeah, are there any questions about seeds? Because then, about the currency itself?
How do you manage the volatility of the currency? So you say we don't use Bitcoin now to purchase things because it fluctuates all the time. With seeds, you're saying it should be used as, on a more regular basis. But how do you control the volatility with it?
Yeah, that is a really, really good question. I've been thinking about this for the last couple of months because we have a plan for it that's in our game guide, but as we have initially released some seeds and we had a lot of problems with liquidity, it would work if there's enough liquidity provided by enough individuals, but it's kind of like a chicken and egg problem. And now we're looking at other methods on how to do that. I was looking at the two-tier currency that Terra and Luna are using, for example. It's a very easy system where there's two coins. One of them is stable always, guaranteed, and the other one guarantees the stability by fluctuating. So you can always trade one for the other at the current rate of the other one. Like you can always buy Terra with Luna, depending on the Luna price, and vice versa. But so the investment that somebody makes into the fluctuating currency, like Luna, is a speculator speculating that the stable coin will be successful. So when Terra becomes much more widespread, or seeds becomes much more widespread, then a speculative coin based on seeds would go up, for example, because there's more being minted. So it would be a very simple mechanism to implement this, and I'm thinking about it right now. I think it's one of the best ways. There's also MakerDAO that has its own ways, and we were actually thinking originally to do it a little bit like that, with assets that are, I think they're called CBDs or something like that, where, don't quote me on it, but where you can borrow based on, let's say you put some Bitcoin in and you can borrow seeds from it, but then you can get your Bitcoin back with seeds. So there's financial ways to ensure the stability. But I feel like the Terra Luna way is much superior. It's amazing. So I think we'll just copy that model eventually. I'm not sure yet how, but that seems to be the best way. I mean, we've had, so now let's talk about governance, because Seeds was actually supposed to go live this year. And we actually put up a liquidity pool on Uniswap, and we had a program, which is still running, where people who are interested in Seeds can put up proposals and can receive funding from the Seeds ecosystem in Seeds. And we were trusting that, we were saying, well, we want to support really good people that do amazing projects that regenerate forests and that, I don't know, create art in villages and things like that. And we would, they would put up proposals and we would fund these proposals with Seeds. But over time, what happened is that because seeds were not liquid, they started dumping seeds on the market, and then it destroyed the price value of seeds. So we learned that people who are actually, where it would be in their best interest to keep the price of seeds up, are acting in their self-interest because they cannot really see the big picture. So that was also an issue with governance in seeds, where we were asking all the citizens of seeds, pretty much every single member, to make decisions based on, to make decisions for the entire system. And well, you know, people have good intentions, but they're not financial experts, and they're not necessarily going to act in the interest of the whole. So decentralized, that's a bit of an issue with decentralized governments that we found right away, where things got passed through the proposal systems that were, you know, kind of cute, that were appealing to people, but they were not helping the system. So basically, you know, somebody needed money for a sick person in their village, and everybody was like, yeah, let's give that person money. And people voted for that, but there were other proposals that would improve the system for everyone, and nobody voted for that. Nobody was really interested in doing that, because people don't really have the capacity to understand how the system works or why this is good for them. It's just good for the whole system, but, you know, not for the individuals. So we found the problem with decentralized governance to be a bit of an issue of interest, maybe skill level, vision. I mean, our intentions was to give everyone the same voice, right? Everyone who is in seeds gets the same voice, gets the same decision power as everyone else. Like, all the founding members have the same votes as other people. But we found that, yeah, that there were like just a lot of bad things happening with it. The money, in our point of view, went the wrong ways. And, you know, I'm not sure if it would recover eventually, but I think it's a bit much to ask for someone who just wants to, you know, buy a coffee to constantly deal with governance. That's probably not their first interest. And the other thing with governance is very different things are being decided upon. Sometimes things are being decided that are strategic for the entire system. Sometimes it's things that are very localized to an area that are really not that interesting for other people. So, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that last bit. And I heard about Seeds a couple of years ago, so I've been like checking out their platform since then. So, yeah, I mean, that's like a really big issue that came up. So I'm curious what you all's process.
Oh,
yeah.
So because we record, and it's like, you
oh, we're
need
gonna all
to
talk
the
on
mic,
the mic, yeah.
you need to do the mic. I mean, this last
Chat. Yeah, so that's a pretty big issue, clearly, that you all gave it to the community, and then the governance model isn't doing too hot. So are you all thinking about like forking it? Or are you just gonna try to like sort of take power back and pass something that way? I'm super curious how that's gonna go down.
Well, none of that has been decided, but as it, you know, Seeds is a cryptocurrency. Everything that we do, that means actually that everything that we do is on-chain and public for everyone to see. So if you were to go to a blockchain explorer, you could see all the money flows that ever happened in Seeds. So that's one of the properties of the blockchain technology we are using. It's very literally completely transparent. So you can see how much salary somebody's getting, who is sending money to who, et cetera, et cetera. This is sorry, that's not really answering your question, but I'm going on a sidetrack here. It's going to be a critical component of the new money system that we're going to be using going into the future. Whether that's Seeds or it's another system, it's extremely important that there's complete transparency in the system. And it might be a little bit uncomfortable to show off to everyone how much you're making in a year, or where you got the money from, but the upsides are just huge, because there is almost no possibility for corruption at that point. And because it's public and everyone is checking, there's not fact checkers, everyone can check this at any time. So it's not like it's exclusive, but it's available to everyone. And once we have this system up that's completely transparent, it will be very hard to do most of the things that the people controlling the current money systems are doing. You won't be able to start wars, you won't be able to bribe people, you won't be able to do any of those things. So this is going to be a really important piece. The other thing about seeds is that everything, all our smart contracts, everything we developed for the last 2 years is open source. So anybody could just go at any point and fork it and create their own version of it. Just name it something else, or even call it the same name, actually. Don't do that. But yeah, anybody could just take it and copy it. So this is also a fail-safe in case we are taken out, or we are getting corrupted, or whatever happens. Other people can just take the same software and create their fork, which means it's the same thing but controlled by different entities.
Is it stored on GitHub, or?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Everything is open source on GitHub.
How do you find it? Just seeds on GitHub?
Join Seeds.
Nice.
It's a Join Seeds repository. The Seeds website is at joinseeds.earth, for the record. We have a very beautiful constitution that's 160 pages long that encompasses all our values. It's a little bit too much to talk about it right now. But the most important element of the constitution is, right in the beginning, there's a sentence that we recognize the unity of our life on the planet and the unity of all people on planet Earth. And we recognize that our financial system must reflect this. So it's really based out of this intention to create. And I'm actually quite happy that people can just copy it, because if we fail, someone else can just take it. We can't basically fail. Alex, can you give him the mic?
Hello, Nick. Thank you. Regarding the decentralized tools, so here we are the Light Leaders Mastermind, and we'll talk about it, but on top of the events, we have an online organization that works as a DAO, where we decentralize the governance and want to create a token, so it's a bit of a lab experiment, as you're doing with Seeds. And the way you've been building Seeds is through that tool that's called Haifa. And what I think could be really interesting if it works now is that you show a little bit the tool you're using with Haifa, and because that's something you've been working on for Seeds, but that we could use also for the Light Leaders, and that a lot of people maybe who are interested in building decentralized organization here could work, and maybe showing it, and also talking about the challenges you've working with.
Yeah, I would love to. And actually, I was going to make that arc into Haifa right now, because he was asking about the governance, the problem with the governance in Seeds, etc. We were using Haifa, an organization about 50 people, organizing our software engineers, our teams, our marketing teams, everyone, organizing all of this with our Haifa software on a decentralized platform. Everything is on-chain. We have an on-chain payroll, so you can see everyone's salaries, for example. Everyone makes, we call this contribution requests, but everybody can put up proposals, basically. And then when people vote on it, we have an 80% rule. With 80% agreement, a proposal can get voted in. So we just had a huge reorganization of the entire company, which was a very tough process to do, because some people will get less, some people get more, and we voted that in as well. It was voted through the DAO, and we are now implementing the reorganization of Haifa. In Haifa, we had a bit of a similar problem as in Seeds, in a smaller scale, because everyone was deciding on everything. And so what we've come up with is, it ended up creating bad solutions and also a lot of politics, because people would vote on things they really don't understand anything on. Like, people who have no background in computer science would vote on technical issues, and it didn't make any sense, really. It was just like, it was literally somebody going, I like this, I'm gonna vote for it. And it's like a bad decision, which the technical people know, but the non-technical people are not aware. So it became like decisions by politics. And what we did now is we created what's called an anchor circle, which is sort of like a decentralized CEO or a tribal elders council, which has an explicit task to create guidance for Haifa. So any important decision comes before this council and is discussed there. I mean, should be discussed there in any case. And then the council comes up with what they want to do. They discuss it a little bit, and then everybody shows how they're going to vote on it. And if there's consensus, then it's being communicated to the rest of the organization. All our meetings are recorded on Zoom and publicly available. Not that interesting maybe, but it's a lot of material. But so then the other people in the organization that are not in this council don't have to follow these recommendations at all. They can still vote whatever they want, but they get a sort of sense of direction, and they get people who are very experienced in governance, or who are very experienced in tech, giving their opinion on it on the Zoom calls. So I think with this we have, at least for Haifa at the organizational level, we have massively improved our governments already. It's a small thing really, and this council doesn't have any executive power. It doesn't take away from the decentralization, but it has just the power of convincing people. It's a bit like the power of belief. It's like it has a weight because it gives an opinion. And with that, I think our governance is much improved. And then obviously, all the members in this council are voted in, and they can also be voted out. So if somebody misbehaves, or people think that this guy is an idiot, or this girl is an idiot, then they can vote them out. So yeah. I can show that tool now, maybe, if we can get this thing to work. Do we need this? This guy has, yeah, I have an HDMI. Look, here. Has one. Try this. Okay. Oh. Close this. Oh, okay. I don't think this is working. Oh yeah, there we go. Can you guys see this? It's very dim, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Oh, what happened? It was just working. Oh God. All right, so here's our software. What do you mean it's public? You have to be invited into Haifa DAO to be able to contribute, to be able to post proposals, because otherwise it becomes a mess. So it's public, I think, to see, but because everything is on chain, but it's not public for everyone just to make proposals. So you have to be a Haifa member to make proposals here. So here we see a contribution proposal. We can see, there's some text about it, why this guy wants, we can see the name. It's actually for development. And then there is a token value. We have 4 different tokens. We have voice, we have Haifa, and we have HUSD. HUSD is basically our USD stable token inside of Haifa. So the treasury backs this token and will always exchange it for US dollars. Haifa is our utility / equity token. So most people in Haifa work for tokens as well as cash. We usually expect people to have at least 50% of their salary in tokens. And then we have a separate governance token that's called HVoice. This allows you to vote on things, basically. So voting and token holdings, like equity tokens, are separated. It's maybe a little bit different from other systems. We were thinking, we don't want people who just buy the most HIFA tokens have the most voice. So we have this H voice token that you can only really earn, or either earn by labor or by investing into HIFA. And here we see some votes. We can see, I could vote here, yes, no, abstain. And 2 people have already voted. We can see how they voted. On the top, here we see 100% endorsed. It means everyone voted for it. And on the bottom, it's a quorum. We can see only 3% voted. We need 20% of people that are in HIFA to vote to have a valid vote. If they don't reach quorum, it's basically failing. It would be failing. Yeah, so here's more details on all these things. Supporting documentation. I'm not going to go into this right now. So this is a contribution proposal. Then we have role proposals as well. There's currently, I don't think any are on there, but role is more like if you want to have like a job for the next couple of months where you receive an annual, like a monthly salary, that would be a role. I think I'm disconnected from the internet again. Hold on a sec. Okay. All right. So in here we see existing roles. So we have role archetypes in HIFA. So storytelling and communicating is a role archetype that does a certain thing. And then we have B levels for them, from B1 through B7. This is just how HIFA really organizes itself. B1 through B7 are just salary levels, depending on whoever's coming in, what their experience is, and what kind of responsibilities they're going to be taking on. Where B7 would be like CEO level responsibilities, where they just have to figure out all their own stuff, guide people, etc. And B1 on the other end would be like a junior level position where people get told what to do and they just do their job, or less. Catalyzing and connecting, researching and architecting. What else do we have here? Building and developing. So this would be coders, storytelling and communicating. This is like marketing. So you could now go and apply for any of these roles. It will ask you some questions, like what you've been doing in the past, in case you've been working for us. What do you want to do? And why did you choose what you did? This is just a template to have some sort of standard for role applications. And then usually we also have OKRs, what you're trying to achieve in the next couple of months. So usually all the roles are only 3 months long and then up for re-evaluation. Or actually you have to resubmit it after that time. You can extend it. So we did that because we found it's very difficult to kind of vote anybody out. Nobody wants to stand up and say, hey, I want to fire this person. That would create like a lot of friction. And in our system, it's been nearly impossible. So what we have instead is we have limited roles that are just for a limited time. And if somebody didn't work out, then they can go. Yeah? You have a question? Can you give?
I would be just curious that if roles are available for 3 months, then how it creates like a sustainability or a growth for the organization. But just like from my experience, like usually it takes time for people to actually get into flow with what they do. And if it's changing really fast, then how do you kind of manage that, or how does it feel like?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have a software solution for that. That's just like human skills. So some of us, like myself, I've built a software development team that's quite solid, and we love working together. And these 3 monthly like extensions of our roles are more or less like a formality. It's not like you're reapplying for the job. It's more like, hey, can you just extend my role? It's run out, So we build the teams, the team spirits, etc. outside of that software. So that's not really encoded in code. And others have had this exact problem where it seemed very fractionalized and people didn't know what to do and then had to reapply and it was very chaotic. So there was a lot of chaos that came with being a DAO, actually. Because it's easy to get in some way. Once you get voted in, you're in, but then there wasn't really, great onboarding protocols or hierarchies of any kind. So you wouldn't know what to do. Like a lot of people went in and didn't know what to do afterwards. And then, we had these kind of issues a lot. But we're getting better at this now with our anchor council and, just building teams. Yeah.
Thank you.
It is Oliver.
Have you had a situation where you have had to offboard someone who is actively disruptive and can't wait until the 3 months run out? And if so, how did you manage that? And what were some of the challenges involved?
Well, actually for emergencies, there is a way to suspend someone's role. So I could go to your role and say, I want to suspend it. And that would go up as a proposal and people could vote on it. And if it's voted in, so to say, then that person would be removed. But I think we have actually never had this happen. Because also, even though some people may have desired that other people leave, there was never really a strong enough consensus for that. And it turned more like political and opinion-based. And the other problem with this, the real problem with this was a competency problem. It was sort of like, if I say this person is not doing their job, then they say they are doing their job, and then usually in a normal company you have a boss that decides and it says, well, this is useless, we need to fire this person. But in a decentralized organization, everyone's the boss, so and a lot of people have no insight into what these people are doing. So they might be friends and they might say, well, give them another chance, etc. So it's been very, very difficult to fire anyone. But that's also because we didn't have the anchor circle. Now we have the anchor circle, and such issues are going to be discussed in the anchor circle. If someone is actually disrupting the company or actively harming the company, then it would be discussed in the anchor circle, and it's explicitly set up so that by social agreement, so that things like that can be discussed without everybody freaking out about it or without people throwing a tantrum. So this is all in the area of soft skills. That's why I think that even though we have this blockchain technology and it's great because it provides this transparency, a lot of the DAO, I would say maybe 75% of it is all soft skills outside of the technology. It's all about how do we set up, how do we organize in a way that makes sense and in a way that, we have had a lot of failure experiences, I would say, so we're just failing forward. We had people who really didn't do their job, but then other people give them another chance, and it took like a year for them to leave, even though they were like causing harm, but it's sometimes not that obvious and not that easy to say, so that's why we came up with the solution of the anchor circle. Basically, that solves all of these issues, I'm hoping. We have had it for 2 months now, and it's been going really well. But we're also much smaller now, so we've shrunk. We've lost a lot of people, and we are ready to expand again now from that position. We have reorganized. We got the whole reorganization done, which was a big deal actually, because everyone in the organization can vote, and some people would just be voted out, more or less. So we would just say, okay, we need to keep those people, they get a big bonus, everyone else doesn't get a bonus, and we need to kind of convince everyone that that's the best, that's for the best of the whole, which took probably 2 months of my life to convince everybody of this. Even though it is, in fact, in the best interest of everyone, because that way, all the tokens are still worth something, and now we can find new financing, we can reboot, and we can deliver our product. We are actually in a very good position now because of this reorganization. Without that, we would have many, many members that weren't contributing but had lots of stakes. So, yeah. Can you give the microphone?
So have you all considered a holacracy model? So basically, what holacracy is you all have the anchor council now, and then holacracy is like when you have basically different parts of the organization that are governed by different groups of people.
Yeah.
And then there's specific rules around that, and there's like checks and balances. So that way it can be small groups voting on different things rather than just everybody and then the wisdom council.
Those are absolutely great theories, and we have many people in our organizations who are really into those theories and who are very well versed in them. They know way more than me about them. But to me, they're all theories. You need to make this work in practice. So we have this the model of circles, where circles are autonomous and decide on their own domain of expertise. And that part, I think, is easy, because you just get these people that know about tech. Okay, they decide on the tech stuff, easy. But the problem, I think checking on them will be very difficult. I don't have a solution for that yet. Like, who is going to check and balance? Who is going to check if they actually did what they were supposed to do? Who is going to gauge how they were performing outside of that circle?
Yeah, well, that's how holacracy is built. It's like, has those checks and balances. So, yeah, I mean, it might be something to look into, and like, I'm not sure if any DAO infrastructure goes around there.
Yeah, we will have circles. We will have all the infrastructure for that. So each circle member will have a badge for that circle, and then the circle will have its own voting, its own quorums, and can make its own decisions.
Is that software also public?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we do one last question? Sorry?
We're just really interested in the funding of the. Can you share a little bit more about the financing of the organization and like how it kind of like relates to our current like broken system and.
Currently we have a few investors, so we still run on investment money. But going forward, we will basically put the Hypha token on the market, and there will be a tokenomics model to back it up, meaning that new DAOs that want to set up their DAO can do so for free, but they need to stake Hypha tokens, so they will create demand for Hypha tokens. So the more people basically use our software, the more demand there will be for the Hypha token as a kind of utility token. And there's a few ways to do this. Like, the more you stake, the more features you would unlock, basically. And obviously you could just take the whole thing and copy it, but we want to make it so that it's always better to just buy some Hypha tokens and stake them. It's more efficient than forking the whole stack and just deploying your own, as with all open source software, actually. So yeah, we have a pitch deck. It's all in the pitch deck. It's on, hypha.earth. There is a pitch deck that explains some of the tokenomics that we're thinking about. But really, I mean, if it's kind of a no-brainer. If there's enough, if there's enough demand for DAO software, then it's a no-brainer that these utility tokens will work the way we think they will. So this will finance us going forward. And we have a lot of special groups that want to, use these DAOs, like villages, conscious communities, and all kinds of things like that. So I don't know yet how they are financed. Maybe they will have grants or something like that. But in the end, I think Hypha will sustain itself just by the Hypha token, and just by issuing new Hypha tokens when there's more demand, and using the funds to do more development.
Okay, last question.
So will the Hypha token have unlimited supply, since you say issue more?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
It will have unlimited supply, but it will have rules on how it's being issued. Currently, it's only issued for cash. So every Hypha token is worth $8 right now. Mm-hmm. And if you invest, let's say $8, you get one Hypha token. Or if you put in labor that's worth $8, you would get one Hypha token. So if you put in like a month worth of labor, depending on your salary and your deferred percentage, you will earn. Yeah.
So what's your trust layer to not make it inflationary?
To what?
Inflationary? I don't know what's the
You
pronunciation.
mean to make it worth less? I think it's
yeah,
all
exactly.
okay.
What's your layer of trust to don't make inflation take over the network?
Well, as the way I see it, we will create hyper tokens only based on demand. So there won't be.
So
there won't be
who
too
decides?
There
when
won't be. Well, I mean, I can only say what we do right now. So right now we only issue hyper tokens for investment or for labor equivalent to a certain cash value. So that's the only ways we are ever going to issue more hyper tokens. It's a DAO, so we could, decide to change those protocols at some point. But currently, that's our protocol.
So do you vote on when hi-fi is released to the markets, or is it a centralized or decentralized decision?
It will be a vote. So the way it will work is the anchor council will come together, and the people who are who know about these things will say, okay, now is a good time to release it, and then it will go to a vote, and all the HIFA members will vote on it. And as I said, the anchor council doesn't have executive power. Everything needs to go through a vote.
Thank you so much, Nikolaus. We have about 2-3 minutes, but actually I would love to, still doesn't work well. I would love to share a little bit a case study of that, which is us here. Because the Light Leaders, we want to make it a decentralized organization, and we're already functioning a bit this way. For example, with this event, Céline, Stephanie, Jano, and myself, we put up a proposal, and we wrote down the event is going to be like this. We're going to give back this to the overall financial pool. We're going to pay ourselves that much, and everything is really transparent. And then some people who are part of the Light Leaders Mastermind said, so at the time we use a Notion space, and people say, I agree. And some people said, I agree. No one had objections, so it was kind of, not everyone voted, but it was a consensus in the way that no one objected. And that's a primary, let's say, baby version of how we want to build this. And if someone had a good objection to make, then they could make it and people could discuss and we find the right solution. But we think it's a really good process. It's called the ACT process, and it's great because I think what you talked about with this, then to scale, we want to use this. So the Light Leaders, we'll see, obviously there's going to be a discussion, but from what I see, if this keeps its promises for Light Leaders, is going to be, for example, role, organizing a Bali event, and we'll put the details, and then we'll have people approve that. And then at the moment, for example, you send cryptos to an address I gave you, and then I say, do the accounting and Céline, but we'll get some, but ideally, then it's all automated. So then the event happens and everyone gets the money in their wallet. So there's one thing that you do, and we discussed, I remember, at Zest, we should record our conversations there. But we were talking about how voting wasn't working so well, so probably a good way we could use that, and again, we'll discuss because we're a mastermind, but it's creating teams with badges where it's a little bit holocratic and sales, and it's not everyone talks about everything. But then there are discussions that happen in person rather than everything being voted by everyone. But then using this kind of on-chain voting to make everything super transparent, very clear, very automated also, because at the moment with the process we have, it's still, if someone tries to change the details on the place where we discussed, they can, right? With this, it's immutable. So I think in January it should be ready. And for the people who are more involved in the Light Leaders Mastermind, that's something we're going to use, and that's going to be really awesome. Just to have, you could just have a look and, okay, who's doing what, who's getting paid, how much for what, and so much transparency. So we want to use it for the mastermind. And sorry, George, because we'll finish now. I mean, I can give you a last word, Nick, but we'll have a 20-minute break after.
Yeah, I'll have a last word on decentralized organization. It's a great idea to give everyone the same voice and to not have, corruptible leaders. But what we found is that the decision-making process of finding the most aligned decision for the whole organization and for each individual is all outside of the chain. And the chain itself and the technology is really only for transparency. So on chain we see how everyone voted, which proposals were voted in, it's all stored forever for the history. So it's completely transparent on how everything happened. But the way that we find alignment with each other is all in the realm of just human connection, talking to each other, and having, you know, like your process, the ACP process or whatever, ACT process, yeah. So a process of, you know, finding and coming together and finding alignment. And yeah, we've learned it the hard way that that's very important. Yeah, that's it. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming.
Shower of love for Nick. Thank you so much.